back again with Trauma Behind the Badge. The guys are back. Hey, we were off. We were off record for a second, and we were just talking some shit. And of course, Scallon, my man Scallon's got the locks of love going on there. That hair is like getting it's just luscious and long. If as I just tell him, if we wet it right now, it'd probably be down to the middle of his back right now. He just look at him. Now he's into twirling his hair, like yeah. Yeah.
I don't want to get it any more curly than it already is. So.
Right. My Scallon, man, what's been going on, brother, man? What's been happening with you, man? I know you've been busy, man.
Yeah, crazy stuff. We actually, for the past couple months, been working with the guys with Jeremy over at the fire department with Beyond the Badge Paranormal.
That's right. Yeah. That's our friends Beyond the Badge Paranormal and Kenny. If you haven't met those guys, we'll talk a little bit about that a little later, man. But that's some cool stuff. Yeah. Go ahead, Chris. I'm sorry.
Content with a cause, and just did a bunch of new ones. And we just came back from another place that was like this, where there was murder took place. They've been phenomenal. There's some legit. I'm not going to be a part of, neither is Jeremy and the other guys, all the other firefighters and stuff, aren't going to be a part of some like bullshit kind of thing. So anything that we capture there is legit. Like we either don't know what the fuck it is, or we just can't explain it. Right. You know, we're not saying it is or it isn't anything, but there's some creepy shit. Right. However, I do want a word of caution because sometimes I wear a mic and some depending on what camera is being used. Don't go to the bathroom when you have the mic on. Especially so I was like, man, I had my Red Bulls, right? Like I always have my Red Bulls, and I was like, man, I gotta take a piss. And I go in there, and we're reviewing the video, and they're downstairs because they can hear it through the pipes. They're like, did something break? Is that a spirit taking a piss up in this? No, just note to self. I'm sure it'll be in the blooper reel.
Oh, God, I'm sorry, man.
We just got a sponsor that's going to help us do a lot of other stuff, and we're trying to generate. Again, all the funding goes to Survive First and to help first responders and veterans. The sad news, we just had 2 police officers killed in Virginia Beach. So tomorrow we're going to be doing. We already did some of the funeral stuff, but now we're doing some of the grief work with the rest of the folks that are over there. Even more unfortunately, I just finished teaching in Pennsylvania with Sherry, National FOP Wellness Director for Power and Peers. So we're State Police Association headquarters. They did us really good. They were awesome venue, great people. They lost an officer during a hostage situation in a hospital where I think doctors and nurses were shot. No one was killed with the exception of the officer. Yeah. And there's a weird link because I believe the officer in Pennsylvania and one of our officers here both did auxiliary work, police work in Ocean City. So I think they're connected that way. But we were talking, me and a couple of the other guys that I was working with, I can't remember the last time we had 2 cops killed in one incident.
Right.
Not here. And if so, it's a while ago. But
right.
So yeah, that's what we're doing now. Just taking care of all that stuff.
Well, thoughts and prayers to the three officers you just mentioned, man, and everybody else around the country, man. It's just always a tragedy when those type of incidents happen, man. So, but thanks for doing the work you're doing up there, man, and taking care of our brothers and sisters, man. Fields, the head is looking a little shiny today.
Yeah, a little lengthy.
Yeah, how you doing, man? What's been going on
man.
with you?
Oh man, just hanging out. Just dropped the grandkid back off to his parents the other day. He was fired up today. I'm wore out. That is a younger any people that are grandparents that for any unfortunate situations or anything have to end up raising their grandkids. I can't imagine,
man,
because I am wore out.
Yeah,
and I just keep him for a couple hours. Anyway, hey, ignore the paranormal stuff, Kenny. It's ghost chasing, ghost hunting. That's bullcrap.
I love it.
Well, me and Raul sit on the sideline. Y'all go chase your ghost.
Yeah, man, y'all can have that, man. I tell you, so we did a show. We did a show with them a couple months back, and
I have gone to their YouTube channel and watched a few, though.
Yeah, they've got some interesting stuff going on, and of course the only one that was into it was Scallon there, and so since and they're based out of Virginia, so of course he joined them. Now he's been on a couple of shows with them. A couple of, would you call it a hunt or what do you call it?
Yeah,
a couple of
investigations, just going to these
investigation. Places,
Okay, so and like I say, I'm still amazed at the concept of that because, like, it's. For me, it's golf or whatever, and that's where these it's where they get that endorphin rush, and they get
outlet.
That. That's their way of coping, and it's their release is this ghost chasing stuff. So it's a heck of a program.
He explained it. He goes because Jeremy was struggling a while. He's a firefighter paramedic, and he's like, to go to a place, focus all your energy on one thing, kind of takes your mind away from all the bullshit and drama that you got to deal with day in, day out. When he said that, and he's like, how can I make this into something that's not for us, but for other first responders? So all the money generated and anything that's like promoted or sold or whatever, he directs towards Survive First, because Survive First, I think, was pretty key in helping him at one point.
Yeah. So anyway, hey, I got a few things going on, not much. Like I say, thoughts and prayers to the people there in Virginia Beach and the officers and their families. And heck, let's go on and get Kenny going. Hear Kenny's story.
Yeah, really quick. Just want to say that Doug and I have been pretty busy doing some stuff around Florida right now, between the PCISs and the Daytona State stress management classes. Richie just came back from a conference somewhere. I forgot where he was at, and presenting out there with Blue Cancer Connect. Another one of our friends that just doing amazing work, and he's recently been put on their board, so he's over there doing what he does. And if anybody knows Richie's backstory, he's got connection with cancer, unfortunately, and he's kicked cancer's ass. So it's a good thing. Knock on wood for that. So with that, man, let's get started, man, and start talking to Kenny about Kenny. Kenny, man, thank you so much, and welcome to the shit show. Trauma Behind the Badge, man. We're just honored to have you here. And for the first time, I think this is for the first time in the years that we've been doing Trauma Behind the Badge, I feel a little bit outnumbered.
Yeah.
A little bit outnumbered here, because while Scallon may have retired as a police officer, he's got some fireman blood in him. He's got some in him. Fields, of course, everybody knows that. And now you're on here. So I will not crack any fireman. I'm bullshitting. If it's a joke there, I'm going to go ahead and do it. But Kenny, thanks for being here with us, man. We can't say enough, man. Chris had mentioned about this guy, that's doing this thing out in Virginia. And he said it was a yellow bird or some shit like that. I'm like, what are you talking about? What the hell are you talking about? He's got a yellow bird, something like that. I'm looking at Scal. I'm like, what the fuck? And so he said, no, man, it's yellow tape, Operation Yellow Tape. Yeah. And it's a guy named Kenny, man. He's a good dude. So, Kenny, here we are, man. Thanks again for being on. Man, if you don't mind, tell us a little bit about yourself first, man. Then we get into Operation Yellow Tape.
Yeah, that's great, Yellowbird. No, it sits on my shoulder right here in this. I can't stop laughing, y'all. No, I appreciate the opportunity. I've been listening for a long time.
Thank you.
Yeah, real quick for me, I went to college and got a degree in graphic design and imaging technology, and became a graphic designer. And that landed me in Nag's Head at one point, but then it landed me in Norfolk, working at the Virginia Pilot newspaper for several years. I don't have a fire background. My uncle was a police officer, so I do have a little bit of, I remember being around the police a little bit, but no fire at all. And as we all know, I'm sitting there like on year 6.5 and off of Bramlington Avenue, Virginia Pilot newspaper, and nearly 3,000 people were murdered on September 11th, and something happened with me and with thousands of other people who joined emergency services and the military. I had to do something else besides sit behind that desk. And I started applying in fire departments all over the country, really all over the country and state. And I got hired by Virginia Beach Fire. I actually got hired by Norfolk first, but then Virginia Beach's Academy started, and I took the job with Virginia Beach Fire in 2002. And the rest is history. I just wrapped up a 23-year career 11 months ago, and it's been
welcome to the retired life, man. Welcome.
I know Saturday was 8 years for me that I've been retired.
Wow.
Oh my God.
People, I was like, man. God, just goes.
What year did you retire?
Huh?
What year?
March 1st, 2017.
Shit. So
that's 32 years. Got hired when I was right before I turned, or 2 weeks before I turned 21.
I retired in 2018.
So I'm an old man, fellas. I'm an old man.
Yeah, and it goes quick.
So you retired about a year, well, going on a year, right, Kenny? Yeah, it goes quick, man. I'll tell you what, man. So, and I guess there was no police applications. You weren't, you didn't want to.
No, I mean, it was definitely on my mind, the police, but
I'm messing with you, brother. I'm messing with you, man.
Something about that day.
I hear you, man. I hear you. And so, I mean, something about the career, 23 years, man, you kind of glazed right through that, man. So 23 years in the fire service, man, what was that like?
It was amazing. I mean, I retired a lieutenant, which that was my goal, was to make it to, I wanted to make officer. Definitely served on some of the specialty units. I like the boat stuff. So the fire boats and the Marine teams and the Zodiacs and all those kind of things. But, it was everything I expected in the beginning. Like you guys, I'm sure I played sports growing up. I loved the camaraderie. I loved the bantering at each other. And, but Raul, like you and I talked about before we started recording, I ended up being a shit magnet, man. And I just know in 2002, 3, 4, 5, and 6 and on, you don't know how bad this stuff is adding up. And I know we'll get to inside and outside the yellow tape for me, but it was a good career. I mean, I had a really good time. I like all of us, I lost a lot of friends on the job, plus cancer, plus line of duty, plus by their own hands. It was a long 23 years. It was.
Were you there for the jet that went down?
No. What year was that? I left Virginia Beach.
I can't remember.
I left Virginia Beach in 2007. I moved up this direction and started with Chesterfield County Fire and EMS. And I finished my career here. But I left Virginia Beach probably, I think it was April of 2007.
I think well, if not then, it was at least shortly after that.
Yeah, I wasn't there for it for sure. My buddy, several friends were there, including Matt Chevarati, who just passed of cancer. He was on my first shift ever. I was his rookie, and he just passed, as you know. And they think it was related to that. And then another firefighter, another Matt, passed. So I just missed that incident by a year or two.
Well, in Norfolk, we constantly joke the beach, because I retired from Norfolk, and we constantly joke the beach and stuff like that. But when stuff goes Norfolk has a steady degree of shittiness going on. When something goes sideways at the beach, it goes fucking sideways.
Yeah.
A fucking jet going into an apartment complex,
right?
Multiple fucking significant fires and events and specific, medical events, catastrophes and stuff like that. It's constant. And, we were constantly working with one of your chiefs over there when we were doing the peer stuff on a lot of the firemen that were struggling.
Yeah, probably Baraki.
With with like different things. And we had a series of years of where both Norfolk and Virginia Beach lost some firemen to suicide.
Mm-hmm.
At one, I know one of ours went. I don't know if it was ours or the beach. Went down to Nag's Head, parked his car. And we think he just went into the ocean.
Yeah,
it was rough.
Yeah.
So talk about that, Kenny, a little bit, man. What was your experiences in that way? Because the show is about mental health and resources, right? So what was your experience in the fire service coming up for both Virginia Beach and Chesterfield? I mean, what was the atmosphere, the culture?
I mean, the culture when I first started, a lot like you guys, man. In 2002, it was shove it down. I can remember going, and I'm a graphic designer, a corporate dude who was in an office building, and 1 month, and then 6 months later, I'm watching a 16-year-old girl hang in a closet. I remember coming back to the table for lunch, and those guys were just stuffing down food, and some of them were making jokes, and then I just fell into that, to be honest, and I didn't really see a turn, to be honest. I didn't really see a turn in mental health until around 2016 or 17, really, to be, I mean, really. It was shove it down, man. It is what it is. You're going to see this over and over again, and pretty much too bad. But especially 2002 to about 7 at the beach, we didn't talk much about it, if at all. I don't really remember saying a word about mental health when I was there, or are you okay, or what's up? Are you doing okay with this? It's just
you couldn't. I mean, you felt out of place if you did. Yeah,
right.
Yeah.
And so
what? And as you're telling us your career here, and you draw the line, man. How much you want to tell, how much you don't want to tell. But I know because I've heard you speak before on some stuff, podcast stuff. What was that going throughout your career? What was that kind of that breaking point for you, and to where when you were finished or before you retired, you started, Operation Yellow Tape because of you didn't just start it because you said I'm going to start it. I mean, it was because something affected you.
Yeah.
In a personal way. So like I'm saying, but you feel free to talk how much ever you want to, open up. That's all on you.
Yeah, I mean, I'll go in 2013. My daughter was 7, and to make a very long story short, on March 29th, which is coming up, it's a hard month to talk about. Her mom suffered an unexpected medical emergency, and myself and a police officer were there, and we did CPR and we did all the things, and her mom died. She was 34 years old. My daughter was 7. And I talk about it because that was the beginning of, I'd already been on a job for 10 years, but that truly was the beginning of a mental health decline for me, almost immediately for 7 years. And it went on from about 2013 until 2020 when we talk about Operation Yellow Tape. But that was the moment. Before then, I didn't have any bouts of irritability or anger or real bad hypervigilance, or I was pissed off at God. I was mad at everything in the world. But Chris, really, 2013 was the point where I started to feel it. And then we lose Brad Clark in 2018, and it just continues to pile on until 2020 when I met a good friend of mine for lunch, and then 17 days later he took his life, and that was the birth of Operation Yellow Tape. But I tell everybody it wasn't, it was Tom's suicide that made me launch myself into getting help, but it all kind of started for me in 2013. I should have got counseling. I should have done a better job taking care of myself. I was trying to raise a 7-year-old. There's no playbook for this. She was heartbroken. Our family's heartbroken. And and you're still running calls. You're still doing the things. And so that was the start.
And you talk about the personal side of it there. And I think that's what a lot of people, not first responder, but a lot of people on the outside looking in think, I mean, I know there's some idiots who say, they signed up for that job. They knew everything. Yeah, we see all that, but they forget that we have a personal life also.
Right.
We lose personal friends. We lose, I've lost friends that had nothing to do with the fire service.
Right.
So I think people, that's a lot, like you said, it was a personal thing that kind of really, hit you, but it was, I think people forget that
you said that, Chris. There was just a post, I want to say it was maybe Minneapolis or something like that, where a police chief was being interviewed regarding like a police officer involved shooting, and when, at the end of the news like interview or the statement that they were making, she goes, "Oh, and by the way, the officers are doing okay and they're getting whatever help that they need, even though you guys never asked that question." She said that live.
Oh, wow.
And she's like, what? Just so you know, because you're concerned about everything else and all the other people. Just FYI. The first responders, they're doing okay, and we're going to get whatever help they need. It was, but that was just today. I saw that. So if you think about when we were all on, you know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So Kenny, you alluded to a little bit. and how the birth of Operation Yellow Tape, but it sounded like the snowball was kind of building way before that. I mean, and was there just was there help around, or just you weren't ready to get help, or I mean, what was that like? You know what I mean?
I know from 2013 until 2020, it's around the 16 and 17 2000, there was help available. I mean, I was on the peer support team. I was on the peer support team from 2009 until I retired. I was one of the lead guys getting some of the most calls. I knew. I always tell people, you're the first person to feel these symptoms. I knew what was happening to me. I'll be honest, it was the stigma. I wanted to make lieutenant. I was nervous that it was going to stop me. I didn't want to talk to anybody about it. I didn't want to seem like the things you always hear. I didn't want to seem weak. I didn't want anyone to think that. My parents, I didn't want anyone to know that. Man, I find myself getting extremely emotional in my car. I'm tearing weed eaters apart. They don't start the first time. I'm crying in my shower. I'm punching my steering wheel. I'm drinking too much. I'm busting up relationships all over my life. I'm toxic as fuck. Oh, I'm toxic all the time. And I know I knew there was help. I just didn't really know when to start it until it was time to start it.
Yeah, and I know Scallon talks about this all the time, and we are the best at solving everybody else's problems. But
Yes.
we are the worst at solving our own shit, ain't we? We won't listen to the same shit we say. We won't listen to it.
Yeah.
You know,
I can remember dropping a lady off at the ER, and you lock her door, and you pet her dog, and you take her to the ER, and you put her slippers back on her feet, and you give her all the resources, and you get back in your own ambulance or your own fire engine, and you don't do any of the things that you've done for this person to help their life get better. You just watch yours continue to spiral, and it's amazing that we do that, but we do.
Right. Yeah, I remember when me and my wife things were just as well. I was still doing a pretty good job of covering it up, but here I'm meeting with another firefighter talking about his marriage problems and telling him what he should be doing and what he should be, how he should be doing this and this is that, and then as I leave the restaurant we're having lunch at, I'm thinking, hey, what else can I go do to destroy my marriage today? I mean, it was just crazy.
Yeah.
You had something, Kenny? I'm sorry, you were pointing your finger.
Oh no, I'm pointing at Chris because, the birth of Operation Yellow Tape is because I was sitting with Tom Showalter off of Interstate 95 in April of 2020, and I'm sitting there wanting to talk about myself and start puking some of this out, and I just couldn't. And when we left and he went north and I went south, he took his life 17 days later. And you always hear, I can't talk to nobody unless they're a firefighter. I can't talk to you. You don't know what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Why didn't I talk to him? Why didn't he talk to me? I mean, he lives on my wrist for the rest of my life, but Chris nailed it. I mean, I'm sitting there listening to some of his stuff and I say nothing back. He's telling me some things. I'm telling him some things, but we never got into the conversation. And that was the day that I wanted to talk, finally. I just didn't want to burden him with it for some reason. And then 17 days later, he took his own life.
And that's what we do. We're like, it's an old cliche say, we're the helpers, so we don't want to act like we need any help. And that's where we get ourselves in trouble,
Yeah,
absolutely.
Yeah, it's significant across disciplines. The one difference is, which I think on the fire side of the house makes it even more okay to not talk about stuff like that, because in between calls, during calls, you're together. So you become really good at masking. And on law enforcement side, a lot of times we work by ourselves, or we have the opportunity to be by ourselves if we're not working an actual function together and stuff like that. So we don't, to lack of a better phrase, we don't have as much practice as firemen do on covering it up. And I think that kind of standard and that kind of environment kind of breeds people that are comfortable not become. You're more comfortable in your own pain hiding it than you are kind of sharing it and kind of unburdening yourself with that kind of stuff. So
and you're,
yeah.
No, I was saying and at the fire station, you're always waiting for. I mean, I look back now and I think you're always waiting for maybe one person. Mm-hmm. I always talk about Raul's story when he talks about when you had the big guy that stood up and spoke first, and that kind of made it easy for everybody else. But growing up in the fire service, hired in 1985, and all those guys were old. My first 2 or 3 officers were had done 20 years in the Marines. They've been in Vietnam, and they're, and now they're. Matter of fact, I was just talking about one the other day. He was actually a tunnel rat in Nam.
Wow.
And he'd have nightmares at the station, And the next morning, everybody just sit around talking, and we'd make some kind of traumatic call, and you'd kind of be waiting for somebody come out with the gallows humor, dark humor, whatever you want to call it. Which that's when everybody would chime in. Everybody had a good dark humor joke about the traumatic call.
Mm-hmm.
But nobody, which is what we do. And, I've never been told, a lot of people tell you that's just a normal process that we go through. It's how we cope with it in that 24-hour shift.
Yeah. We had a guy in the firehouse that when the tones went off, and I remember Chris saying something about them trying to change the tones or vibrations or something like that. But when he was in Desert Storm, similar kind of tones would kind of wake you up for potential attacks or bombs, stuff like that. And just like you said, he would flip the fuck out. And then it became everybody making fun of that situation. And he would kind of play into, it's not like kind of picking on. And by the way, if you're not getting picked on at the firehouse, nobody likes you. That's just
exactly right.
We're on the top. So it was kind of a way to kind of overcompensate that it wasn't that bad, but it's more funny than it is anything. And we had guys on the job that were Vietnam era veterans who were like, really? Noises throw you off? For me, it's weather. Like if it rains, I'm like back in the and I'm like, Jesus. And it's just they were like one upping each other and kind of shaming people for not being as up as they are. And that's gonna upset you. But in a weird way, it's that gallows sense of humor or that macabre sense of humor that if we're not laughing, we'd be crying. And I'd much rather laugh with my brothers and sisters than cry. So it's universal, and I don't give a shit where you are in the world. If you're a fire or a PD or a first responder or vet, we think we're the only ones going through it.
Right.
And every single one of us has kind of gone through it. So
So Kenny, you're on 95 and you're talking to your buddy, and then 17 days later, tragedy hits, and thought process there. How's Operation Yellow Tape even? How'd that come out of you? How was that born? I mean, from this happening, how'd that tragedy spark that?
Yeah, for me, it was actually, in April of 2020, we were in the middle of COVID. So there was we weren't allowed to go in anywhere, but we had one of his memorial services. And during the service, we're sitting there and I'm still struggling. I hadn't talked to anyone yet. And a person sat beside me, and I kept hearing this same theme all day long, that this keeps happening because there's no one to talk to. And this keeps happening because this job sucks and the calls we run and everything is horrible. And I spun around at one point and told this guy, I'm like, well, this job is hard and it does suck, but what do you mean there's nobody to talk to? If you look around here, everybody in this room is either a first responder or a family member of, or they look at us. But here I am not talking to anybody either. He gets up and he walks off, and I jot down on this napkin I jotted down, there's too many of us to not be fucking talking to each other. It doesn't say that anymore on my shirts, but that's what I said on that napkin. And the next person sat down and said, this happens because this job sucks. And this out of my mouth, I said, no, man, this happens because inside and outside the yellow tape is difficult. And what I mean by that, and I'm going to use my own life. Outside the yellow tape of these jobs, inside is where I am, in the fire service, running the calls, doing CPR, doing what we do, doing the things. But outside of this stuff is where child custody battles and arguments and finances and mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, all the lilies, that's where they exist, man. Watching our parents get older, it's just, I said, it's piling on us. And I started kind of venting right there. And I said, outside the yellow tape will burn our lives to the ground. And Tom was struggling outside the yellow tape. And nobody wanted to say nothing. Nobody wanted to mention it. And that's where it was born. I wrote down on the paper on a napkin, I wrote Operation Yellow Tape. Inside and outside the yellow tape is difficult. And from there, it was kind of born, and I leaned into it. And I realized that day, and I'm not trying to get emotional, but I realized that day I couldn't save Tom. I couldn't, but I could possibly save myself and people who look like him. And that's what I wanted to do. I looked in my rearview mirror and I knew, man, you are struggling. You're hiding all this. You're a softball coach. You're this, that, and the other. But man, you can save yourself. Nobody's coming. It's been 7 years. You have the strength to do something about this. And I wanted to help people who look like myself and who look just like Tom. And that's where the Operation Yellow Tape was actually born, at his memorial service.
Now he was on the job as well, right?
He was.
What was, and I'm just curious for because it's a big contention, and there's actually some breaking news this week, but about that. But did they give him full honors?
No.
Yeah. That's a fucking problem.
No.
That's a problem because and I bet you with all the funerals we've probably been to more funerals than anybody should ever go to. But
yeah,
I always hear at funerals when they get killed in the line of duty, they tell you it's not how he or she died, it's how they lived. Yeah. Unless it's suicide, then it's all about how they died. And I'm like, that makes no fucking sense to me. Why is it like that? Because we had the same thing. We had several times, and there was a big debate on services. And to speak to what you're talking about, if we make it okay to honor them for what they did and how they lived their life up until the whatever tragic moment, because suicide's there's a very fine line there where you can either be on one side or the other of it, right? So, and I talked to a bunch of chaplains because there's a religious aspect that comes in, whether suicide, depending on what your beliefs are. And this chaplain goes, but you don't know if the fraction of a fraction of a fraction of a second prior to that happening, that he or she did not ask for forgiveness. And so if we look at it that way, why not honor them with the full honors that they're deserving of? Because that one event does not erase the thousands of people that he or she may have saved and or helped to become better people or live more productive, or whatever it is, right? So that always bothered me. I don't know how did you guys kind of struggle with that, or was that an aspect?
Oh, for sure. And I'm really close with his mom and his sister, and they may listen to this and get mad at me, but there was some shame on their ends by what he had done. They didn't want to talk about it, and his daughter didn't find out until not long ago, man. So I don't know if they had some involvement with the fire department, how they handled it, but I know there was some. They felt horrible, and they didn't want. Man, I'll say it. They didn't want people to know what had happened. You could just feel it. You could tell.
Right.
His parents have been to both of my Operation Yellow Tape events since year 2 and 3, but they didn't come to number 1 because they were still kind of processing it and what should we say about this? So, I don't know if it was the department or the family, but we struggled with it for sure. We didn't. And COVID probably would have messed it up anyway, but we didn't get a good chance to honor him. And he did a lot of great things and saved a lot of people and did a lot of strong work and just gone.
Yeah. You talk about it, especially the family, because that's important. Shame is normal.
Yeah.
It's normal to feel that way. But what I think is, and it's normal to feel that way because we've kind of taught to feel that way about, something like that. And somebody, and I forget who said it, and I don't want to misquote anybody, but you're not dying by suicide. The suicide is just an act. It's death because of depression or anxiety or some other thing. So if you go and you're like, hey, listen, I'm struggling with depression, you're going to get support, and it's going to look at like, yeah, you're struggling with something. But when we take that out of it and it's just death by suicide, which to me, that'd be like, oh, the officer was killed by gunfire. He was killed doing the job. But there's a context that we need to kind of be aware of. But I can't dismiss somebody feeling shame.
I know
it's
Right.
their right to feel it, and they're not wrong. Your feelings are not wrong that way. But I think it's a powerful message is when the family makes it okay,
yes.
because everybody, all the guys and girls on the job are going to kind of. I talk about it like the baby falls down, looks at mom and dad to see if it's okay to cry or laugh.
Yeah.
And if mom and dad are freaking out, then the baby's going to freak out. And fire, PD, first responders, and vets the same way. Because go to a vet funeral, go to a police funeral, and go to a fire funeral. You talk about all these tough guys and girls that won't cry at work, will bawl at a funeral.
You better believe it.
Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah.
Right.
And his family has, I mean, it happened in 2020. I mean, his family has accepted it now and talk openly about it, and are kind of leading a charge and with awareness and helping Operation Yellowtape bring awareness to the communities and the families of us and stuff like that. So they're on board now. But I mean, you asked the question earlier. Yeah, we were like, wow, we want more. There needs to be more for him, but there just wasn't at the moment.
Yeah, and I think that.
I
think that shame and stuff that y'all were talking about is the. I always, when I see the first responder suicide numbers, they're always greater than what's reported.
Better believe
because of that nobody wants to report suicide, or and it doesn't, not that it's a money grab, but they suicide, you won't collect life insurance in some instances, so they've got to cover. Is it the state of Florida who just made suicide line of duty?
National law enforcement memorial. I know. I just got the memo that they're now making case by case suicides a line of duty death.
Wow.
Yep.
And by the way, Canada has done this years ago. The CIA did this years ago, where there's star on the wall for a suicide because it was line of duty death or considered. So we're behind the times.
Oh yeah,
for sure.
Yeah. So just to move along. So now you're deciding you want to help, and you bring up Operation Yellowtape. What do you do, man? What does Operation Yellowtape actually do?
Man, we do. My mission when I started off was to provide some quality resources for people and some education to the families of us. I was absolutely shocked. I was on the job for a long time, and I was absolutely shocked of the family members that could have been married to one of us for years and years and years and didn't know what hypervigilance was, didn't know that this job can cause irritability, didn't know what sleep hygiene was. I was shocked by all that. So what I wanted to do, and what I'm doing, is I'm bringing awareness not only of the signs and symptoms to look out for your loved one, but to explain to them, some of them, what we do at work. There's a lot of folks that just think we put wet stuff on the red stuff and you guys handcuff people. There's so much more involvement with that. So the mission is to provide quality resources. I provide events. We get together in community. My goal was to get a bunch of people who do this job and don't do this job in the same space, and let people's story become people's survival guides, and just talk about emergency services. I think there's so many folks that just don't understand what we actually do, why we may respond like we respond. And the education part of this to me is very, very important. Talking to the families, when I was October 4th of 2002, I'm no longer that man anymore. On October 5th of 2002, things changed, and I'm not that guy. And I truly believe that one of these days, and I could be wrong with this here. I think that sleep deprivation is a big reason for a lot of the illnesses and injuries. And I think the communication part is a big part of the infidelities and the relationship problems, because I change. And I don't let my wife know I'm changing. I just become that irritable, angry piece of shit who doesn't want to go to Busch Gardens because I'm tired of hearing the screaming in my ears, and I don't know how to verbalize that. So I'm trying to teach families how to understand that when your first responder gets home, he or she may need an hour to decompress before they're at the pool hearing kids screaming. And that's just the goal of Operation Yellowtape, and it's rewarding. It's families are seeking help. People are coming out of the shadows and asking, man,
keeps cutting. There you go.
Am I back?
I'm gonna Am I freezing up, or is he boning a little?
I think it's Kenny freezing up.
Okay, just a little. Okay, I was make sure because I thought he was done. And here I am overstepping him, and he's trying to talk.
No, you're good, man. You're good. Go ahead, Chris.
Well, I was going to ask. Excuse me, bronchitis still around. You know, they old man cough. Because like you talk about the spouses, you know, and if you can't communicate or they don't understand, like you say, you're coming home, you're blowing up, you're angry, and if they don't know what's going on, they think they're the problem.
Yeah.
So then they get resentful and everything. Yes. That was my point on that. But I wanted to ask, and I may be jumping ahead, and Raul can go back into Operation Yellow Tape.
Go ahead, man.
I just wanted to ask you about if you knew him before, during, or how y'all, because we're all big fans of Jason Redman. Mm-hmm. And I know you and Jason do a lot of stuff together, and you're involved. How did that relationship, did you know him before, or how did all that come about?
Before Tom died?
Well, no, how did you and Jason Redman get involved so much together?
Oh, well, I one day, while I was deciding to get therapy and counseling and talk to people, I picked up the book Overcome. Just out of the blue. And I read the book Overcome. And the way he talked about the Pentagon on peak performance and how mentally, emotionally, socially, spiritually, and physically, if you take care of yourself along the way, when these life ambushes happen, you'll feel better and you'll handle it better. Well, one night about midnight, I actually sent Erica, his wife, an email, and I said, hey, I don't know you and I don't know your husband. I think he's some SEAL guy, influencer, but please tell him that the book Overcome really resonated with me. And for the first time in a long time, a Chesterfield firefighter is going to sleep well tonight. And just tell him thank you. Never expecting to hear anything back. And a couple of days later, I actually got a call from him saying, hey, man, I'm local to Chesapeake. Your story is something. And thank you for that. I'd like to talk to you. And we end up going to Pale Horse Coffee and having a coffee together. And next thing you know, he invited me on to this group called the Overcome Army. And it was a bunch of people who were just trying to move the needle a little bit in their life, physically, personally, and professionally every single day. And he got me certified to be a coach with them and to help people. And the relationship just blossomed. He's mentored me with speaking and helped me to have more confidence in myself and really come out of the shadows. And he's the one who told me, you honor these people, Kenny, by continuing to live your life as fierce and as hard as you can. Even though it's going to hurt like hell, you honor them by getting up and continuing to live. That's what you do. And it was just one of the strongest statements I ever had told to me was, that's right. I don't need to hide behind sappy, sad post. I need to honor, like I'm going to do, Jessica died March 29th. I'm going to go skydive March 29th. I'm going to continue to live my life and to do things that make me smile and not feel. I felt like I wasn't allowed to be okay. I think all those years suffering in silence, a part of me felt like I didn't deserve to be happy. So,
like you'd feel guilty if you were happy and having this great life.
Like how can you post had a wonderful time at Busch Gardens when you just left your, Matt Chiavarotti's funeral. I just couldn't get past all those things. Right. But Jason really helped me in those areas. He's a powerful guy. He's amazing, and he has a way of looking.
Did he tell you to jump out of a fucking plane?
No, he didn't.
I'm just trying to go. I want to make clarification there.
From Suffolk?
I am.
Larry, so Larry runs. I go out at Suffolk all the time. And one of my close friends who jumps out there as well is a retired Norfolk firefighter as well. And all those guys are a lot of the guys that go out there are Naval Special Warfare guys. So it's a pretty tight community out there.
Yeah, I'll be jumping March 29th at 12:30 p.m. I got it for Candace got it for me for a retirement gift. I'm like, I'm retiring and you're giving me a ticket to jump out of a plane. I think you want my VRS.
Yeah. I was going to tell you too. You said you had coffee with Jason Redman.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I just want to prepare you because I know you're going to eventually have coffee with Rich Creamer, and it won't be near as good as experience.
Yeah. You got to get ready for that, brother. You got to get ready for that.
I'm just letting you know right now.
and he'll give you an opinion about jumping out of a plane. You're probably not going to like that either. So just be ready for that shit. So
love you, Rich. I know you'll hear this. But.
Yeah, absolutely, man, absolutely. So Operation Yellow Tape, man, what's going on right now with it, man? What do you got going on here?
Man, we're about to. Well, it's been a unique year. This is really the first. Well, last year, a lot of presentations, a lot of departments and organizations and decision makers hired me to come out and speak about. I have a couple presentations that I do: dropping the shield, calming the chaos, and the hope approach. So I've been doing a lot of traveling, like you guys do, and educating. Emergency services, and most importantly, their families. I'm really focusing on the families. I mean, I know we know what's going on. We know this job causes problems, but I'm really educating the families. I got another event coming up on October 4th, the Operation Yellow Tape event here in Chesterfield County, where I have 5 speakers, and we have raffles, and we have music, and it's a catered lunch, and it's just a community of people who are first responders, who are not first responders. Man, I'm in churches. I'm educating there. I am just trying my best to get the word out. I'm looking for that one person. Some people focus on, I can only speak to a crowd of 5. I don't care if it's one person, man. My why has always my why has always been, I couldn't save Tom. That was one person. I can possibly save myself because I was there, and I want to help people who looked just like Tom and me, and that's my why. So, that workshops, presentations, getting out, speaking, sponsoring.
I'm gonna try to get out there in October just to be a spectator at your.
That would be
deal.
cool, man. That'd be cool.
If I can get the dates to work, I'm gonna try to get out there. And you're talking about speaking, man. And it doesn't matter if you're speaking in front of 1 or 1,500. It always takes me back. Us 3 right here, and Doug was with. We spoke at a deal. Was that in Virginia?
In Virginia, man.
Well,
in Virginia,
3 people. It was a 3-day event, 3 people, and there was lack of communication on who planned this deal. So it was the same. It was the same 3 people every day.
Well, I'll tell you what.
We just rotated our program.
Well, I can tell you when Operation Yellow Tape started. I mean, I'm not joking when I tell you this. I was invited over to a person's garage, and there was 3 people. And the max we've all done is, I've done about 400 in Chicago. So I don't care about that. Like y'all, if somebody calls me tonight and says,
yep,
I've got a group of moms and it's 4 of them, because sometimes they're like, is this a good enough crowd for you? Is it a good enough crowd for me? Are you kidding me? Is one person there?
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And that's how we, and Scallon, he coined this phrase, but real recognizes real, and that's how we know that you're in it for the right reasons, because you don't care about the amount of people, and we were having a conversation before we started recording about that. We try to do it for the right reasons. It's about hopefully impacting that one person, and hopefully saving one more life, with every presentation, with every teaching and everything, every place we travel to, hopefully we're making an impact. And I will tell you that and we speak a lot, and you were talking about that, we get around a little bit, so sometimes we just don't know. Time goes by and you just don't know if you're making that impact, right? Because people talk to you, and that's cool. And they, hey, great, I love what what your message was, and that's all great, right? But you just don't know. But every now and then, and I'm not the big religious person, but I think this is God working, mysterious ways. Every now and then He'll put somebody in your path. And we just had that happen to us at IACP. Was it right, Chris? IACP?
Yeah, awesome.
We're at IACP, and a woman just approaches us and tells Chris first, "You guys saved my life."
Yeah.
And then she comes and finds, Chris is like, they're here. And she comes and finds us. Chris, I just spoke to her today, man. We were speaking on the phone. She's got some stuff going on, and she's trying to. Anyway, we'll talk later. But she's doing some great things, man. But that lady just told you that we saved her life, And man, talk about re-energizing you.
Well, so to speak to what Raul was saying, I was speaking with FOP on this Power and Peers program. She just happened to be in the audience, and again, we don't know who's listening. I don't know them by face or anything like that. And she had come up and she goes, what Raul said, and I'm like, oh my god. She goes, I just wish I could, tell everybody. I'm like, they're here. Like you, what? Like, but that, like, who? Again, it can't be anything other than God being like, all right, let's throw Tron behind the badge a little bone here by helping that stuff out. And to what Raul says is, unfortunately, you'll never know how many people you actually really help, which is fine because we're not doing it. We don't get a set of steak knives if 3 people come and tell us we help, right?
Right.
But it's like Raul and myself and Chris and Doug and Rich. When you do this long enough, it ebbs and flows, and you'll get these low points where you're like, what am I doing?
Right.
Why am I doing this? What's going on? And then boom, out of nowhere. And it was
and I swear it happens at the best times, but it happens at the right time. I don't want to say best time, but at the right time. I think Chris hit on the head. It's right at that low point when you're you're worn down. It's just, what am I doing? And nothing, another speaking engagement, and just kind of, it's just dragging, and you're at the IACP, which is just a monstrosity of a conference, and that can just it's the same as your firefighter conference, you guys go to in Indianapolis.
Oh, FDIC.
FDI. It's that type of monstrosity, So you can be at this conference and it just can weigh on you. And it was in Boston this year, the IACP thing. So when that happened, I just remember thinking that night, like, wow, like we made a difference. We made a difference, and I say all that, Kenny, to say you're making a difference, brother.
Well,
you're making a difference.
Well, thank you. So, and I think about that lady with y'all. I mean, to me, I was at a speaking engagement a few months ago, and a guy was talking about his great grandfather who took his life. So what you guys did for that lady was you changed the direction for generations of that family. I feel that's how I look at it. Like, I got a young man standing in front of me talking about his great grandfather who took his life. How long has this been in that family? And you guys, this lady, she walks up to you and you saved her life, and you've changed the direction of that family for a generation to not mourn her death or be confused or upset. So it gave me chills because I get those sometimes too, and it's right, like you say, Raul. It's when you feel the weakest and the most knocked down, and you're having to negotiate a flight with somebody or something, and you just feel beat down, and obsessive comparison disorders kicked in, and you're not doing enough, and you're not doing it. It happens at the right time every time.
Every time. Right. Yeah. Well, gentlemen, we're coming up on time, so I'm gonna go around the horn here real quick. And like always, Kenny will give you the last word, man. But Scallon, go ahead and kick us off, man.
No, again, like, just to reiterate what Raul said earlier, real recognizes real, and I think Yellow Tape, Operation Yellow Tape, is what we need, and I think what we try to do is try to associate ourselves with people like you, Kenny, who are doing it, who are not doing it because you get a platform. You're doing it so that platform can help you help other people. It sounds kind of odd, but so I think when somebody reaches out to us or you, I'm comfortable going, hey, you know what? There's a program out here that is doing some stuff, might be in your area. Because again, we get calls from all over the country, but I'm in Virginia as well as Rich. So and your neck of the woods is not that far from where I'm at. So, hey, have you spoken to him? Or I can call Kenny and be like, hey, Kenny, do you mind reaching out to this person? I'm dealing with this individual. Just to have a cadre of people to help out. So I thank you for what you're doing. And again, just to kind of beat that horse, what you're doing is saving lives, whether you know it or not. And the fact that you keep on doing it without knowing it just speaks volumes. So
absolutely.
Thanks for coming on here,
man. Thank you.
Fields, man, what you got, brother?
Hey, man, same thing, man. I just you're part of the shit show family now, whether you like it or not. You can't delete this. You can't delete this once it's posted. So you're in. And no, man, I've been following you for a while. Like I said, never met you in person. We've talked on like direct message on Instagram, and then I got your stuff, which I forgot to put this on when we started. A little late push there. But no, I talk about the difference you make, and we always, and sometimes I think, how big is really, like I say, you get worn down, you're thinking, but doing some of the stuff I'm doing here with the state, Danny Long, y'all know Danny, some of y'all, they did this survey, totally anonymous survey of first responders. Of course, to get any first responders to fill out a survey is pretty impressive. So out of about 20,000 first responders in the state, almost 1,400 first responders responded to this deal, and the percentages came back. And I know it doesn't sound like much, and I get even kind of shook up talking about it, but out of 1,400, 8%, that's a pretty significant, out of only 8% had contemplated suicide in the last year. 8%. I'm going, so now take that in little Oklahoma, now spread that out across the country, and you're thinking, God, that's way up in the double digits,
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, so all that to say, man, what you're doing is making a difference. I'm sure you've had the effect on somebody's life like that they had on that, or they had on that girl. You don't always know about it, and they don't always, you don't always know, but just know that you're making a difference, because I read posts and I hear people talk, and I know people have seen your stuff and all that, man. I appreciate you, and I'm glad to be associated with you and that you're part of the family.
Man, thank you, sir.
Well, I want to echo all this, man. Thank you so much for coming on, man. Real recognizes real, like we were saying, and do not doubt that your work is saving lives one at a time, and looking forward to sharing the stage with you here soon, and hopefully we can save some lives out here in Florida as well, man. So with that, man, floor is yours, man. Pump up anything that you got going on, and we'll make sure we put you in the credits as well, man. So what's coming up here, Kenny?
No, I just want to say thank y'all for having me. I listen to this podcast all the time. I share it all the time. And I love that real knows real, and I appreciate being on here more than you know. And I think I just want to end with, whoever's listening, of first responders or families, man, just give somebody a chance to hear you, give somebody a chance to see you, give somebody a chance to help you, because you're going to be shocked when you do come forward. Men like this on this panel here can help you. And we spend too much time hiding in the shadows, thinking no one will understand. Well, here's 4 people right here who do. So I just beg you, if you're listening now and you're in your car or you're hurting, come forward and let somebody hear you, see you, and help you, but before you do something drastic that you cannot take back. And that's all I'd like to end with, is just come forward. People, traumas aren't the same. We all fluently speak the language of pain, and we have the ability to get you in the help you need, and we care and love you and want you to feel good, because you've earned it. You have to love yourself more than the strangers you served for so many years. So just ask for help.
Absolutely, man. Well said. Well said. And with that, as we always say, if you or anybody you know is in crisis or needs some help, our contact information will be in the credits. Please do not hesitate to reach out. We will get back with you, and we will try to help. We promise you that. Thank you to our sponsor, Survive First. And with that, gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it, guys. Great show.
Peace out, fellas.
Great show.